Hi, I'm Laura Manweiler, staff writer at GovCIO Media and Research. Today I am with Justin Cole, Director of Data Transparency at the Bureau of Fiscal Service at the Treasury Department. Welcome.
Thank you, Laura. Good to be here.
So you have a new data initiative. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so, in the lead up to the 250th anniversary of the United States, we did a lot of research looking into the data that we publish on our platform, fiscaldata.treasury.gov. And we realized that we actually have some of the oldest continuously updated data in the entire country and in some cases even the world. The data that we publish is called for in the Constitution. It says a summary of accounts and receipts should be made available to the public. So at the same time that we were counting people in the U.S. Census, we were also counting money. And I thought that, this really offered us a great opportunity to talk more about not just that receipts and expenditures data that we still publish to this day, but also be able to share all of the different, incredible data resources we have available. And so we are kicking off a 4-week marketing campaign that really focuses on not just the data that we have, but really the story of financial transparency in this country, the story of how the really numbers that built America in a lot of ways, right? The funding and the spending that went into building the things that we know and love and appreciate about this country, Yellowstone National Park, the Golden Gate Bridge, these huge investments, the Hoover Dam, all of which required significant federal investment in order to be able to be built. And so, excited to do that campaign that will culminate on around the 4th of July, where we will actually, for the first time ever, be able to bring together that historical data set, that account of receipts and expenditures with our modern data to provide, really for the first time in one place, a continuous look at the last 230 years of federal receipts, meaning revenue coming into the government and expenditures, spending going out. And again, I think it's a great opportunity for, the public to be able to understand more of the way in which our data are published, but also understand more about the, how their taxpayer dollars are being used. So,
right. What are some of the interesting things you found while reviewing these documents?
Yeah. So, really interesting looking back to 1793, so the first year this was published. You can see in there all expenditures, and at that time we were a very young country. Most of our expenditures were staffing costs, and so you can see in there Alexander Hamilton's paycheck and the paychecks of his staff. But while that's interesting, I think really being able to look at the data over time, to be able to see through periods of war, through periods of depression, through periods of success, right, and growth, just being able to see how those trends have changed over time, how our spending and how our revenue coming in has changed over time, I think just really paints a picture that, frankly, I'd like the public to know more about. So,
if we could switch gears to another thing you guys are currently working on, you're currently evaluating ways to make federal spending data AI ready and consumable by external models. So what does success look like a few years from now? And would you rather users go to usaspending.gov, or would you rather them just get accurate answers with whichever AI they're interacting with?
Yeah, that is a great question, Laura. So to tie it back to the first answer, I think, any 250-year celebration is always a period for reflection, right, looking back. But it also, for us, was an opportunity to look forward. Maybe not 250 years, but at least look ahead the next 5 or 10 years. And what does what do the products that we are currently building look like? What are the needs and the demands of the public and our users going to look like and shape? And obviously, any conversation about the next 5 or 10 years has to include AI in some way, shape, or form, right? It is transformative. It is changing the way that our users are accessing data and looking for information. And so to answer your question, I do hope that they will find value in usaspending.gov, right? In the interface that we have built. I think we have an amazing design team that goes out and does user testing and really tries to understand exactly what our users need and build a site that that I'm proud of and that I think helps people not just find the information they're looking for, but make sense of it too and put it in context so that they understand what they're looking at. However, At the same time, I think we increasingly are seeing people going to their AI chatbot of choice in order to seek out information. And for some users who may just be looking for, to validate a data point that they heard in an article or in a news report, or if they're just curious about exactly, how much federal spending is going to their hometown. Absolutely. I want to ensure, that if they are going to that AI chatbot, that the answer that they are being provided is as trusted, accurate, as the data that they're getting on USA spending. And so to that end, absolutely. I really just, our mission in my division and at USA Spending is to inform public dialogue and ensure that people are able to make data-driven decisions when it comes to matters of spending. If they are going to, get that information via an AI chatbot, wonderful, right? Mm-hmm. If it helps them make a decision better, then, I am just as happy for that as if they came to USA Spending. But I do think that having the .gov domain, having that sort of authoritative site that can be cited by journalists and researchers and academics, I think always needs to be there. But the interface through which they access that data, again, I think, we need to meet them where they are. So.
Right. And I imagine USA Spending is definitely more well-rounded and has other tools that they could access while they're there also.
Absolutely, yeah. We have, in addition to spending data, of course, we do have data on the public debt, on public deficit, on revenue, so all sorts of revenue, both income tax, tariff revenue, et cetera. And so while USA Spending is a very helpful resource for people looking for federal spending information, there's a lot more out there, and definitely encourage folks to check it out.
Right. If we could switch gears to industry, is there a specific ask for industry or a gap you could see them filling more immediately? The
great thing about working on a public-facing website is that we have users from all different areas come and use our site for different purposes, right? So we have the public school teacher or the informed citizen who's wanting to attend a local city council meeting and wants to be informed about federal spending in their area. We have the journalist who's writing the story about trends in federal spending writ large. But then we, of course, have industry, right, who use our data to be able to understand and identify what are some of the emerging areas of federal spending. Where might there be opportunities that might exist for them to, be able to, find additional work. And so really the ask is just, I think that, as we're using this data to make decisions, whether it be to find that next business opportunity or whether it's to be better informed about, your own, hometown and how federal spending affects your hometown, I would just ask that, we make that data as accessible as possible, right? Some of the most exciting things I've seen out there are when people take our data and build visualizations or build other ways of interacting with it that we could have never thought about. So I would just ask that if folks are using it for, business development or using it for opportunities like that, maybe consider, as a part of a, like a corporate social responsibility type of project, to think about how might we build a tool that could take that same data and repurpose it to make it more easy for some group to access. So
great. Before we go, if you had to leave one piece of information or a piece of advice with the viewers, what would it be?
Yeah, I would just say, come check us out, usaspending.gov, fiscaldata.treasury.gov. I think that really you'd be so impressed to find what information actually is out there. It helps you to become a better consumer of information, but also just a better kind of person in this country, right? As we are able to ask the questions that I think often get talked about in the news around, federal spending and around federal revenue. I think being informed is one of the best ways to ensure that you're able to read and consume information.
I like it. Go directly to the source, right?
That's exactly right. So.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to look through the public records once they're released.
Thank you.